in staying up to date via the official forums of government, let us take a moment to reflect on some of the ongoing projects that our civil servants work tirelessly day in and out on. And of course, my apologies for our late start due to a fire alarm that had taken place here at the building. There is no fire, and the alarm that had been tripped has been replaced or cleaned up as necessary. So I thank all for your patience, those that had to evacuate the building, as well as those who had to wait on the service for which they had appointments. We always have to take the precautions to ensure that it is not a real emergency. And thank you, of course, to the civil servants who followed the necessary precautions. There is a lot that we as an administration can be proud of, and I would like to express on behalf of the council our gratitude for the challenging work that everyone is involved in. It is amazing to see what we've achieved, especially coming out of the pandemic in this short period of time. And as we look forward to continuous growth and development, I ask for your continued dedication and commitment. To those who are, we would also want to continue to show appreciation for the elderly, who are the foundation of our society. We celebrate them in October, but it is important that we do so all year round. Much strength to all of those persons who are going through hardships, especially those fighting breast cancer and other cancers in general, those struggling with mental health issues. As government, we are doing our utmost to support you with these matters. Also those suffering from the loss of a loved one, our condolences to you. I saw that this week there were quite a few. One strength. Continue to take care of self. It's important to not allow ourselves to be bogged down by negativity that is coming from outside, and have actually build our own positive self-images so that we can face the challenges that will inevitably come. In matters relating to the Civil Registry Department, I would like to inform the general public as follows. We have been open the last couple of Saturdays, and we will continue to do so in the interest of the service provided. So this Saturday, October 21st, and next Saturday, October 28th, walk-in service will be available for driver's license renewals at the Government Administration Building from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. All applicants must be registered in the Basic Administration of St. Martin, and those with foreign nationality must present an original valid resident permit. Citizens of St. Martin should have with them for this service a valid ID issued on Dutch St. Martin or a passport, current driver's license, which may not be more than 1 year expired. Just confirming that the window for the others is closed. The medical declaration as well, which shouldn't be older than 2 months. Resident permit, if that is applicable, and a fee of 200 guilders. The picture will be taken during the application process, and if it is expired for more than 1 year, the new practical exam appointment has to be made. Online payments can be made in cash, or payments can be made in cash or with Maestro only during these weekend visits. If necessary and other information is required, this will be conveyed to you by the relevant civil servants who are giving their time on a Saturday. I hope that together with the department, that citizens will make use of this opportunity to update the required driver's licenses. And some have also asked about ID cards and the like, and I'm sure that would also, especially seeing the upcoming elections, be possible. Also, I mentioned October, the dates, but also in November, on the 4th and the 18th, we will be having ID cards. So this is still possible in November as well, on the Saturdays from 9 to 12. So that is November 4th and 18th as well. I'll be updating, of course, as we move on. As part of the Plastic Free Project, which I have been really promoting for quite a while, the St. Martin Development Fund, SMDF, which is executing on government's behalf, recently launched a student art contest for both the primary and secondary schools. In the primary school, the contest theme is how plastic affects our island, and entries could have been anything artistic, basically from paintings to drawings, digital art, or mixed media pieces using recycled plastic and styrofoam materials, which we know we are trying to remove the single use of. Of course, always utilizing our youth to bring awareness is something that we feel is very effective. Children have a lot of impact on their parents, and so I encourage all of us of St. Martin to do our individual part to minimize the single use of plastic on the island. On Sunday, October 22nd, upcoming, right here in the Government Administration Building, the SMDF will be hosting a prize-giving event around the single-use plastic art gallery event to feature the works created by the participating students. This will be set up as an art gallery, and it will be open from 3 to 4 p.m. for the general public. This is on Sunday, October 22nd. I forgot to mention that the secondary school's theme is Unveiling Plastic's Impact. And the secondary school entries are also to be either mixed media or sculpture pieces using recycled plastic and styrofoam materials. By placing all of the pieces in a gallery-style layout, people coming to the event will be able to see all of the creations. This would also instill a sense of pride in the participating students. And I must say, I've always been very, very much encouraged by our students. This year, I think I attended at least 2 science fairs where there was a heavy emphasis on the dangers of plastic, as well as other areas of renewable energy, including sargassum. So this is something we and our neighboring islands are also looking at, and seeing that the youth are also thinking along those lines is quite encouraging. And their participation in the SER Symposium last week as well on the environment was also quite encouraging. The SMDF is also seeking for an external statistical consultant with expertise in data collection to contribute to a comprehensive report analyzing the import, usage, and sentiments regarding single-use plastic and polystyrene foam products. This report aims to assess the potential impacts of restricting plastic usage across various economic sectors in St. Martin, and the responsibilities of the consultant will include collecting and analyzing relevant data related to the use of the plastics and others from the various stakeholders, assessing the potential environmental, economic, and social impact of the proposed measures, as well as developing statistical models and forecasting techniques to predict future patterns and trends. For the full terms of reference, please visit the smdf.sx procurement site. Submission deadline is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023, and you can submit those to info@smdf.sx. So this is really very much in line with my promotion of our sustainable development goals. I think it has come across to the general public. There seems to be some type of a misunderstanding as to what the sustainable development goals are. So I will indeed be looking with the Department of Communications and the relevant departments how we can ensure to continue to update the general public of St. Martin what those goals are. Mainly the ones that we're dealing with plastic free is ensuring a clean environment, so climate action, as well as life below water and life above land. That's SDG 13 and 14 and 15. So it's very, very important that we understand what the goals are. They are global goals, and St. Martin is doing a lot in the various areas, but we have not been properly tracking our actions. So together with our National Development Vision and the different departments and the work being done internally, we are trying to create a platform so that everyone will be able to see, based on each goal, what actions are taking place within government. So do look forward to that, and we will update once that platform or that, dashboard is ready. The last I would like to mention for today is that the Ministry of General Affairs is hosting a retreat for the Emergency Operations Center. This is on Tuesday, October 24th. It's an all-day event featuring legislative elucidation, so the challenges or the legislations that need to be elucidated when dealing with disasters, presentations from the pertinent stakeholders, and the necessary discussions. As you know, also, the meteorological department is monitoring a system that is several miles away, more than 1,000 miles away, but we will continue to update you on government's platform. So do stay tuned to those updates and continue to be prepared at all times. Thank you so much, Relaika.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. As we experience a technical difficulty with the audio in the beginning, I would like to re-invite the Honorable Minister of Justice, Anna Richardson, to provide you with her opening remarks. Minister Richardson, you have the floor.
I'm back. A pleasant good morning, Honorable Prime Minister, colleague ministers that are supposed to join us, members of the press, Ms. Roach, and the listening and viewing public. And of course, I always say good morning to our senior citizens. Congratulations are in order, and I'd like to be able to congratulate KPSM and the St. Martin Police Sports Association, as well as all persons who participated in one way or the other in the well-planned and executed Police Week. We appreciate the dedication and hard work for all the police officers from St. Martin, Aruba, Curacao, the Netherlands, the Best Islands, and a few from Suriname who participated in the events. Your commitment to keeping our community safe is commendable. Once again, super congratulations to St. Martin for winning most of the sporting activities, and a special congratulations to Officer Angelo Blyden of KPSM for capturing the title of International Song Festival King, and Davidson Charles from VKS for capturing first runner-up. We would also like to express a heartfelt congratulations to the prison on the occasion of Prison Workers' Day that was celebrated on Monday, October 16, 2023. Your contribution to our community's safety and rehabilitation are truly valuable. Also, we're extending congratulations and a warm welcome to Mr. Jocelyn Livingstone, the new head of Immigration and Border Protection Services. We also extend our gratitude to Angelique Myers for her interim leadership and dedication to the organization. We look forward to the department's continued success under Livingstone's leadership. We've come to the end of the grace period for the driver's license, and with that, I'd like to congratulate all those who renewed their driver's license or expired driver's license during that period. You can now safely and legally use the public roads, and we thank you for your responsible action. We are thrilled to welcome representatives from various countries to the second annual Anti-Counterfeit and Intellectual Property Conference. In support of our Customs Department and in partnership with DeSosa Incorporated, this event is a significant step towards a counterfeit-free St. Martin, protection of our consumers' health, and the protection of brand image and rights. We appreciate the involvement of renowned companies such as Procter & Gamble, Chanel, Dior, Hennessy, and many others who are arriving on St. Martin today for the next 2 days of our conference, starting tomorrow, Thursday, and ending on Friday. Your efforts would not only benefit St. Martin, but will also have a positive impact on neighboring islands. And finally, I'd like to ask the public to save the date as we will be launching our first Justice Career Fair on Saturday, October 28th. At the Port of St. Martin. Within short, we'll be launching our promotional flyer with more information, and we look forward to having a great turnout at this Justice Career Fair. Those are my updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Richardson, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. We now move on to the question and answer session, and I would like to invite Bibi Hart Shah of SMN News. You have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, ministers. Prime Minister, I'd like to ask you for further clarity on a point you made prior to my question. You spoke of the fire alarm that went off this morning that caused the delay. I'd like to know exactly how often does maintenance of these alarms take place, and I'd like for you to know, Prime Minister, I was in this building when that alarm went off, and the persons in this area, nobody heard it. So hence the reason I'm asking how often does these alarms get maintenance from the fire department or even the proprietor? As for my question, Prime Minister, can you give me the status of the recruitment of the Secretary General for General Affairs? And what is government position on appointing or hiring someone for a position while there is an ongoing court case? So I'm asking about the recruitment of the Secretary General's post. Where are we with this? And what is your position or government's position on hiring or recruiting someone for a position while there's an ongoing court case?
Thank you for those questions. Indeed, the fire alarms, I will have to get an update. As soon as we re-entered the building, we came into this briefing, so I didn't get an official update as yet. I did get the update while we were waiting that the fire department had assessed and there was no fire, but that the alarm itself had to be cleaned and replaced. So I will find out that same information, and as soon as I do, I will be able to send that to you in writing. As it relates to the recruitment of the Secretary General of AZET, that process is ongoing. The first part has taken place, and the second part, which relates to interviews, etc., still needs to take place. So hopefully we can get through with that sooner rather than later. And this has absolutely nothing to do with any cases at this point.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Before we continue with the question and answer session, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister of Finance, Artwell Edion, to present you with his opening remarks. Minister Edion, you have the floor.
Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the media. Good morning to CoM. Good morning to the people of St. Martin. Sorry, I was trying to stick on my notes, but I'll try to address as much as possible from the top of my head. And regarding the, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be a question soon, and regarding Muller Bay. Yesterday, the Prime Minister and myself met with the directors of some resorts, namely Miguel Alexander and Juamali Martis. They have been appointed by the shareholder of the Sun Resorts to solve the current problems of Sun Resorts, and in particular to realize the sale of Muller Bay property. I would like to also make it clear that Muller Bay itself, it's in the hands of a private entity. So the land is obviously in the hands of the entity I just mentioned. In the request for the offers to purchase, Sun Resorts is offering for a sale of a piece of land of about 11,000 square meters. The main reason for the sale of the parcel is to raise funds to finance the operations of Sun Resorts on Muller Bay, to pay off huge debts such as taxes, social premiums, insurances, consultants, utility bills, etc., which have not been paid by the former management of the Sun Resorts. And last but definitely not least, to have the necessary funds available in order to carry out the process of the sale of Muller Bay property in a professional and transparent manner. In addition, in the offer request, it mentions that the submissions of offers explicitly and irrevocably reserves the right to cancel their process at any point of time and or to not consider any specific offers made for any reason and for no reasons at all. So that was also mentioned in the document. We've also discussed yesterday with the entity that St. Martin will continue to be informed of any sales, anything regarding the land purchase, the sale of Muller Bay or things to do with Muller Bay. Yes, we do know that it is a private entity and also private property, but at the end of the day, St. Martin has been disadvantaged since 1995, and we as a government also, you need buy-in and support of the government also to be able to execute such a project. So we've again asked to continue to be informed in any plans, any processes going forward, and they have committed to doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Edion. We now continue with the question and answer session. Jacqueline Hoffman of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, ministers. Good morning, colleagues. Prime Minister, early this year, Minister Doran and the governor received a proposal from 75 world-renowned animal protection organizations, monkey sanctuaries, and primatologists who offer to bring solutions for the problem with monkeys on St. Martin. At their expense, there would be no cost for the government of St. Martin. Was this proposal ever considered, seeing that at the moment hundreds of thousands of dollars are spent on the killing of monkeys, and it gains a lot of bad press internationally.
Yeah. Any decision made to, at the end of the day, I don't have the details on this. The Minister of Rami is not here. And I just asked his replacing minister if he had any updates on that. I can't give you the specifics. However, I can tell you that any decision as it regards to that is taken with the necessary input and advice of the NGOs that government deals with. So whether it's the Nature Foundation, Pride, Epic, and the rest, I'm not sure. I don't want to call names that aren't part of it. So if I mention one that isn't it, I know for sure Nature Foundation. And even in last week's session, as I mentioned before, the discussion on invasive species was mentioned. And so it's a challenge around the world, even within the Caribbean area. So it is something that is seriously looked at and evaluated from all angles. At the end of the day, the challenges that are being faced with the invasive species are to human life and food security as well. So they're destroying crops as well as posing a threat and a harm to human life. So, and that is being weighed along with whatever is happening. I will check into the petition that was sent to His Excellency the Governor and further discuss with the Ministry of Rami the way forward and inform. I don't know if you have anything further.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Minister Edion? Okay, we now move on to Stephen Cerulean of PJD2 Radio. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you, Prime Minister, Ministers. Good morning to you as well. Prime Minister, firstly, I want to say thank you for always being present to make the necessary information available to the press, and that is highly appreciated, at least from my person. Looking at the date set for the Kingdom Conference, Prime Minister, March 25th and 26th, I think, can you give us an idea as to the agenda points for this conference?
Thank you for the question and the commendation as well. For me, it's important to always keep the general public abreast and as well as offer the media opportunities to ask questions. The Kingdom Conference everyone knew we were looking at having it this year, and the dates kept being shuffled, especially because of the, let's call it, snap elections being held in the Netherlands, they becoming demissionaire, and then our elections coming shortly after. So the compromise was to do it in March, hopefully by then, whether we would have a new sitting government, so that we're able to have constructive discussions moving forward. Having a Kingdom Conference is not a fluffy meeting. It's really for the heavy-hitting topics, and we all know what type of topics we want to discuss, but those have not yet been agreed upon in terms of the agenda. So that's the next step. Establishing a date was the first thing. So now the committees have to sit together from the various countries to propose the agenda for which the ministerial levels will agree. So once we have the agenda set, this will be shared, but that's not yet the case, unfortunately.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, and thank you, Stephen. We now move on to the second round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ralaika. My second question is for the Minister of Finance, who's also the acting Minister of Rumi. Minister Irian, it has come to my attention that several heavy equipment operators that are working on the landfill have not been paid for months. Can you verify if this is true? And can you also explain to me, Minister, how is it possible to have people working and they're not being paid? Do you consider this to be responsible or irresponsible as a government?
Thank you for your question. And regarding the persons heavy equipment on landfill, they have been paid. I personally dealt with that in my first week as acting, so I know for sure they have been paid. I dealt with it on both ends, as Rami and as finance, where I expedited the process. I know one of the issues were that the tour was not finalized. I believe this is in its final process at the moment, so that we'll have a full contract for the year 2024, but they have been paid.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Thank you, Bibi. Jacqueline, you have the floor.
Just a note, I asked a question about the monkeys because these experts, including the Jane Goodall Global Institute, refuted the research done by Nature Foundation where it concerns the reproduction of the monkeys mainly. My question is to Minister Richardson. What is going to happen with the container cells, seeing that the Turning Point has the same problem as the prison had, no money for plumbing, connecting these container for transport first and then connecting them to water, electricity, make an area. It just costs a lot of money. It's not on the budget, so how are these container cells transported to Turning Point, and if not, what's going to happen with them?
There's been no further discussion about the containers since the last update that I've given you, so I don't have any updates on it. We'll work our way through it. They are already gifted to Turning Point. Turning Point has their end to do, but if it's a challenge for them, then we'll discuss it at another date.
Thank you, Minister Richardson. I would like to reinvite Minister Edion to add to the question that was posed by Ms. Jacqueline Hoffman.
Yes, actually, it'll be more to her statement. Is it possible that we get an update on that research that was done that refutes that of the Nature Foundation as a government? But in addition to that, I don't know what research was done in that regard, but I know for sure that the people on the ground, the people that are actually in agriculture, the people that have been and have to live through the monkey devastation on the island, they don't need any person from overseas to come and tell them that what they're experiencing isn't real. You could go and ask Mr. Justin Richardson, Denicia White, and others, right? Their crops, their mangoes, even Ms. Shaw here has her own garden, suffers through the issues with the monkeys. And at the end of the day, as Prime Minister mentioned, it's an invasive species, right? Just like how we have, I believe, 1% of our Antilles iguana left. Just like in Aruba, the boa constrictors are not native to Aruba, so they have like a culling season. In the U.S., they have the same issues with alligators and other species, right? At the end of the day, I stand for our people that can't make their regular living anymore, can't continue to produce their crops because nothing is being done in a sense of, at the very least, stopping the producing of the monkeys. And it might look cute, right, for persons that have to come in to visit on vacation, right? But it isn't for the persons that have to live here. So you can send information, but I personally stand with our agriculturists. I stand with all persons that have to live here and suffer through, our residents even with their regular gardens that have complaints every day, right? Because they don't find it cute.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Stephen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Interesting observation, Minister of Finance. My question is for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, I'm happy you made mention of the Sustainable Development Goals at the start of your statement. Yesterday, International Poverty Day was observed. This actually forms part of the SDGs. Can you help us to understand as to what strides is being made on the part of St. Martin in being able to at least deal with that situation effectively?
This is a very tough question to deal with. As you know, and even in my forays within the community, the elderly especially, the size of the pension, what's happening with minimum wage earners, we're all talking about that. And SDG number 1 is no poverty. So the goal is around the world to reach to no poverty by 2030. What the challenge has been with us is linking the actions that we're doing to these SDGs. So I've had to report last year in 2022, from a kingdom basis, we present information, but there's sometimes only 1 or 2 people in a department, and if the information isn't submitted on time, it doesn't get recorded as such. So that's why I say it's so important for us to create the platform in terms of inputting all of the actions government is doing across the board and linking them to whichever SDG. So there are things being done within the Ministry of VSR for poverty alleviation. And we just heard yesterday that the census has been finalized and Council of Ministers will be receiving that update. Now, a lot of people will be like, what I got to do with me? And I think this is where explanation is necessary. A lot of decision making in government cannot be done, or we sometimes do because of emergencies, ad hoc, but it should be based on structural changes in policy and legislation. And to structurally deal with poverty, we need data. And we needed that census 2022 that was conducted, and that is finally completed. And now, based on that, more can be done. A small increase was done in the pension, but that has to go through the whole process, to go through the Raad van Advies, the SER, etc., etc. It's a long process. So, of course, there is impatience on the ground, which we wholeheartedly understand. In terms of even us here in government, we're having discussions with the unions as to cost of living and how can we sustainably deal with the backlog, is it? That has been created over the years. But legally, if there's no funds to do so, you're not obligated. But we're sitting at the table to come to a compromise, and hopefully that will be resolved within short. Promoting good health. All of the different things are affected by poverty. Education, health, all of these form part of the goals. So for me, it's important to bring awareness, to ensure that all of civil servants who are working diligently are, have the indicators within their planning so that they can check boxes and we can know that, okay, in 2020 we were here, in 2023 we are here to see the growth. And that's the goal moving forward, but the platform isn't ready yet. See, across the board for the entire government. So it's what we're working on. And so I encourage those departments that are working on, for instance, SDG 1, no poverty. What steps are we taking? What are the goals for 2023? What are the goals multi-annually, 24, 25, 26? Because when you make a program, this one was 2020 to 24, this government. The next one will be 2024 to 2028. And so within those plans, it must indicate where we are with these SDGs, where we want to go and how we can get there by 2030. So I hope you'll bear with us that we get that dashboard up and running so that it will be there publicly, the NGOs, the CSOs, because it's not just government, it's also what's being done on the ground. Yeah. So we do have subsidies for the elderly care foundations, for Helping Hands Foundation, the ones that transport the elderly to the centers where they have after programs during the day, some by Hope Estate, some here by the John Lahr Mini Center, and I believe another one. So every day of the week, there is a place that seniors can go. And I wonder if they even know. There are several foundations that are subsidized by government, and that is to help alleviate poverty as well. But these things are nowhere in one document visible, so you can see what's being done in that area, and that's what we're working towards.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Thank you, Stephen. We now move on to the third round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Relaika. My question is for the Minister of Finance. Minister, almost a year ago, I believe, the status for Windward Island Bank has changed. Instead of an MCB subsidiary, they're now an MCB branch, meaning that all the local shareholders, all the shares have been sold and bought out by MCB. There is no longer a local bank, you should say. Can you tell us if there are plans to have a local bank on St. Martin? And can you also give me an update on the banking law that have been worked on? Or you're working on?
Thank you for your question. Regarding the MCB, I don't have the details on shares and so forth being sold. Regarding any new banks, I have to get an update from Central Bank if any new banks are planning to come to the island. And regarding the banking law, it has been sent to the Central Bank for their feedback and answer for questions from the Council of Raad van Advies, Council of Advice, and also my questions. So we are waiting those responses, and then we'll then proceed back to Council of Ministers and then Parliament.
Thank you, Minister Idiom. Jacqueline, you have the floor.
Thank you. And just noting this proposal that was sent, it constitutes solutions to protect the livelihood of people of St. Martin. It doesn't mention nowhere cute. My question is about carbon growth. The National Alliance my question is about carbon growth.
Carbon growth. Please proceed.
And the building permit for carbon growth was issued by the National Alliance through former Minister Emmanuel. Since then, there have been no building inspections, and the situation today is dire. A year ago, the Minister of Romy was requested in writing by MP Chanel Brown-Bill for an urgent meeting in Parliament, and there has been no response. During the budget discussions, it was asked if the Minister had reviewed the presentation that was sent to him, and Minister Erion said that he would come back and to Parliament and give an update on this review of the presentation. What happens when a minister is requested for an urgent meeting to address imminent risk at carbon growth due to possible landslides there and buildings tumbling down the hill? What happens when a minister is called for an urgent meeting and doesn't respond?
I'm going to address with your, Roleka? I'm going to address your first statement, and I take serious charge with media making statements like that. Once someone is elected, they are not representing a party. They're a minister in a cabinet. So you had mentioned that it happened under the minister so-and-so, but it is a coalition's appointment of ministers supported by a parliament. Yes? So let us be very clear in what we're saying and stop politicizing things that are not relevant to the political party. At this point, and as far as I know, there's been a court case with verdicts against the Carbon Group for whatever's taken place there. The insane allegations being made in the public and being repeated here, I have a little bit of a challenge with. I would allow the Minister of Finance to address the situation as he represents the Minister of Romy in terms of the permits, etc.
Minister Edion.
Yes, thank you, PM. I think I was about to address the same thing. I believe in 2016, at a point in time, I was a member of Parliament at that time, supporting the then coalitions. It wasn't a National Alliance minister, it was a coalition government. And because we don't say, when things are positive, we don't say a nationalized minister, right? So we should continue to follow the same trend. And regarding the carbon growth situation, I do think, like I mentioned before, it's a very unfortunate situation because you asked a few questions. You know, I did meet with a person that's who's also fighting on behalf of all the persons for carbon growth. I think Mr. James, and I had to sit down with him where further clarification was given on the whole situation. And I told him that as a government, we are going to look to see what we can do. There's not much that we can do at this particular point in time. We can't answer questions of the past, like you're asking now, in terms of inspections and so forth. So we could look to see how much inspections were done and so forth. But I don't think that solves the matter at hand right now. And what I do think is, one, as I mentioned before, education regarding to not transferring money, because I've heard large sums of money has been transferred over to Carbon Group without getting a deed, for example, based on a contract. So I think, one, educational process, public awareness in terms of how real estate is to be done, how land purchases are to be done, the notary's involvement, and to avoid such, let's say, for lack of better words, so that's what it seems like to me on the outside, sort of a Ponzi scheme type of situation, because I've heard that houses were sold 2, 3, 4 times. So yes, I do think it's unfortunate. I sympathize with the situation, and I personally have looked to see what can we do from the Ministry of Finance in terms of supporting. And we have had other discussions, so we are still looking to see what being called to Parliament. He mentioned me being called to Parliament. I can't remember that meeting, to be honest. Oh, Mr. Doran. So I will have to get back to the staff to get information about that meeting, because obviously it wasn't something related to me. But I'm pretty sure Mr. Doran doesn't have an issue coming back to Parliament to deal with any matter regarding land or any matter that regards to his ministry. That'll be all.
Thank you, Minister Eden, and thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. I would like to inform members of the media and the viewing and listening public that the Minister of Justice, Anna Richardson, had to depart the meeting as she does have a meeting with His Excellency. Stephen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Prime Minister, on the issue of the Kingdom Conference, is there any particular area of interest that St. Martin would have loved to address? And taking into consideration the fact that it takes so long to have a formation of government in the Netherlands, elections will take place sometime on November 22nd, and the elections of St. Martin, which is set for January 11th. How will the decisions of the Kingdom Conference taken then will meaningfully have an impact on St. Martin?
I am very happy with your interest in this. I can remember from the parliamentary days, my parliamentary days, seeing the impact of a Kingdom Conference, which is the IPCO, at Parliament level to discuss those high-level topics. I can remember back in 2018 having some very strong statements as to, our status within this kingdom. Now, having been here for the past 3.5, going on 4 years, having to deal with it on the ground level and seeing the challenges we face, of course, our status within the kingdom would be one of the things that we must address at that level. Of course, you need to have alignment at both ministerial and parliamentary level. So in that way, we must coordinate because the parliaments do meet twice per year and have these discussions. And we know, for instance, where the dispute regulation ended up, and it remains a story going wrong and wrong and wrong. The Rosie, as the school children would say, without any resolution, because it is what it is. We are what we are within the kingdom, and it's what we chose for. So I believe continued education of our population as to the reality of our situation, the pros, the cons. I've heard many others within Parliament call for referenda. Referenda take preparation and planning, so you don't have a rushed decision, an uninformed decision by the population. And so this Kingdom Conference can kind of lay the groundwork in terms of educating and ensuring that we're aligned at Parliament level and government level and with intention. We don't know yet what the new Dutch government will look like. And a lot of people on St. Martin don't understand how much Dutch politics impacts the manner in which the kingdom functions. So just depending on the plan of approach or the manner of approach of a particular state secretary or minister for kingdom relations can change things. I must say I've gained a bit of confidence having worked within other ministries as well within the kingdom. So especially as we do a lot of foreign relations work for United Nations and others, I see that there is, and with the apology and hopefully the education that should take place within the Netherlands, and awareness within their population, there will be a better understanding of who these islands are comprised of, the history behind it, and as a matter of fact, the obligations towards these islands from the Dutch government side. Too often the narrative is that these islands are wasting Dutch taxpayers' money. And like I stated back in 2018, until we can, for the record, ascertain what monies were made on the backs of these islands, we must put a halt to those types of discussions. In fact, within the United Nations, the discussion about former colonizers being actually responsible to ensure that their former colonies are up to date in their development is part of the transition to autonomy. So those are the discussions I would like to continue to have, especially when we have an IMF report coming out and talking about minimizing the debt to small island developing states such as we are. But because we're tied to the rich kingdom, sometimes we're not internationally seen as the same as Dominica, St. Kitts, and the others that are fully independent. So that awareness is growing within the international circles. We're growing our commitments and collaborations in the Caribbean region as well, which strengthens our position within the kingdom. Because if the Dutch government can see Antigua as a small island developing state requiring assistance and will assist in financing the SDG conference that will be held there next year, which we will attend, then they should be able to recognize the necessity to help St. Martin, Curacao, and Aruba along with the best as well. And I'm seeing a growing understanding for that. But Stephen, we will wait on the elections of November in the Netherlands to know what we'll be working with in the future, because that may change, hopefully continue to progress in the right direction for the general well-being of the people of St. Martin and the rest of the Caribbean, Dutch Caribbean in general.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. We now move on to the fourth and final round. Bibi, you have the floor.
Thank you. My final question for the Minister of Finance. Can you, Minister, give us an update on the proposal that was rejected by Curacao, the bailout of ENIA? Where are we today, and what is St. Martin, the position of St. Martin government? I know you begin the discussions after the refusal from Curacao. I'd like to have an update on the status today.
Yes, regard the ENIA solution, the technical committee of ENIA is working on a possible outline for the runoff scenario. And we are going to be discussing between St. Martin, Curacao, and the Central Bank within short, and I'll keep you up to date on that situation.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Thank you, Bibi. Jacqueline, you have the floor.
Thank you. Minister Irion, what is the policy, or is there any regulation towards prices of houses and mortgages? It's related to carbon again, that you have units of the same size that have different mortgages, some twice as much as the one next door, which exactly the same unit. Is this regulated? Can anyone just put a price on a house, or what is it with the value of houses and what the bank can loan?
I'm going to speak off of my experience. I don't think we have a law, and we have appraisals are done, and price of houses go based on demand, right? So demand determines price. Appraisals are done, and at times persons, sellers want more than an appraisal. And I know then at times banks would say, look, we're going to do market value, and anything above, you have to cover yourself. So again, price is determined by demand. Banks cover mainly, and also different banks do different proposals. I know PSB does it different. Some do auction value, some do market value, so all these things matter. But again, typically banks cover based on their policy, and everything above, the buyer then covers themselves.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Thank you, Jacqueline. Stephen, you have the final question.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. My final question is for the Minister of Finance. Minister, can you furbish us with an update in relations to the budget amendments?
Thank you for your question, Stephen. I forgot to. I consider you the budget guy in the media, so as I have to answer Stephen today. Regarding the budget amendment, it was approved yesterday in the Council of Ministers, so it's on its way to the Council of Advice, and budget 2024 should be at the Council of Ministers next week, to then also go on to the Council of Advice, hopefully.
Thank you, Minister Irion. Thank you, Stephen. Members of the media, this does bring us to the end of the question and answer session. Any further questions can be sent to the Minister's Cabinet in writing. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. For rebroadcast, tune into stmartingov.org, SXM Gov Radio 107.9, Telems Tel TV Plus Channel 15, the official Facebook page of the Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel Government of St. Martin. For video on demand, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and the Government of St. Martin, I'm Rolika Roach, and wishing you a pleasant day further.